Hello, Thornton Darts here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the thickness of flight. Now this can make quite a difference to your setup, as I found out when I did a video on the Condor Axe. I found that the all-in-one system was quite heavy, and I thought, well, why don't I actually do a similar video on the actual normal standard setups that we get. They come in different thicknesses and they are obviously going to affect our darts, but how much so, and that is what this video is about. So let's take a closer look. Okay, so first up, shout out to Loxley darts. A lot of the equipment you're going to see today is from Loxley, so I'll put descriptions down below if you want to take a look. And also the darts I'll be using, Loxley helped me with as well, so big shout out to those guys. Please do go check them out if you haven't already. Okay, so let's take a look at the equipment. Now here we have 4 different thicknesses of flights. They're all standard size. They all are linked to a intermediate Loxley nylon shaft. And today we're just going to be taking a look at the actual visual differences, and then we're going to throw them on the board and see if we can find any differences within that also. And we're going to take a little bit of a weight of each of these setups as well, so we can see the difference as we go up in the thickness. So let's take a look at the first product. Okay, so first up we have the Loxley 138 Keith Deller flights. Lovely flight here, Union Jack Star 138 in the middle for Keith Deller's signature checkout. Now these are first because they are 75 microns thick, so this is one of the thinnest thicknesses that you can get, and we're just going to have a quick weigh of them, and then when we weigh the other ones you'll see the comparison. And when I did a review of the Condor flights, for example, I felt that the weight at the back did make a difference to how my darts sat in the board and how they flew a little bit. Maybe when we throw them on the board later we'll see that again. So around the 1.73, 1.75 gram mark for these flights, including the stem obviously. But in terms of the thickness, the reason why I think thin flights are good is because, one, we discussed the weight, but two, if you have a harder flight, when you're grouping the darts tight together, like when I reviewed the Condors, you can get deflections. Now if you're grouping your darts well, your flights, they could be a source of deflection or marking. You want to use them as marker darts, you might aim for the flight. When you're grouping tight here, because these flights are a bit flexible, they're quite easily movable. If you've got darts tight together, rather than the flight push the dart away, the flight here is more likely going to flex a bit more. So when those darts are coming tight together, rather than deflect too hard, they're probably going to deflect a little bit, but they're going to bend a little bit rather than completely knock the dart in a different direction. So I think that's the main advantage of the thinner flight, along with the weight. Okay, so next up we have the Loxley feather flights. These are clear 100 micron, and they've got this lovely blue feather pattern within that. Lovely flights indeed. Now next up, these are the thicker from the 75, obviously by 25 microns, which isn't quite a lot. Let's do a quick weight check to compare with obviously the 75 micron. We'll put these on the scales. As you can see, these are roughly around the 1.9 gram mark, so we're a little bit heavier again here. Now it might not seem like a lot, but darts is a game of millimeters. It can also be a game of grams, so the little things can matter, and this is obviously a little bit heavy. We'll see how much difference maybe there is in the board, but again here a bit more of a thick, a bit less movement in the flights than the 75. They're a bit thicker, they'll hold their shape a little bit better, and that's probably mainly why they're more commonly used. They're a bit more sturdy, they'll probably last you a little bit longer, especially if you've got grippy darts. But it all depends on what you like, but they are the main advantages of the 100 micron flights. Okay, so next up we have the white Loxley 150 micron flights. Now really nice flight here, pretty simple in design, got the lovely Loxley logo on there, and as I said, these are 150 microns, so thicker than the 100. Let's do a quick weight check on these in comparison to the 100 micron. And put these on the scales, and we'll look at around just over the 2 gram mark. So again, another increase in weight, and we'll probably hopefully see a little bit of that difference on the board. They're a bit thicker. You can see they're a bit more robust. You can hear that they don't have as much flex in them. It's a little bit harder to bend. And you'll notice with thicker flights, when you get them out the packet, they're a little bit harder to open up. Now, I find that more people that use these are the players that have grippy darts. They're fed up with their flights getting chewed to bits because as they're grouping well, the flights are just being shredded. They're constantly changing. So a thicker flight may be something to consider for you, especially if you like grippy darts, because they'll last you that little bit longer in comparison. It also depends on how your darts sit, but again, that's probably the most useful purpose of these thicker flights. And again, if you want to change the angle of your dart a little bit, a slight heavier setup at the top will make your darts sit a little bit flatter, or hopefully we should see that when we do the throwing. Okay, so the last product we're going to take a look at is the Pentathlon X180 flights. Now, these are a lovely flight also. Loxley currently don't have a 180 micron flight in the range. However, if this is something you do use, guys, let Loxley know in the comments. They'll check stuff like this. They really do like responding to the customer's feedback, so just let them know in the comments. But our good friends over at Pentathlon do have the X180, which is the thicker flight. It's probably one of the thickest, if not the thickest, that you can get on the market. And they're a little bit of a battle to get them open, but the good thing about these is once they are open, they hold their shape very well. There's not too much flex in there. Again, they're quite solid. It feels quite similar to the all-in-one Condor system. It's quite a thick flight. So if you enjoy that sort of thickness, then maybe this is something for you to try out. And what I would say as well is that, as I said before about the flex, this is probably a dart where you're going to get some deflections off the flight. Now, you can use it in a positive way. Like I said, like a Darryl Gurney, like a JB Hughes, they like to sort of come down from the flight and deflect off the flight into the board to get them into the treble 20. One dart above the treble sort of follow that in off of the flights. So I think that's a real advantage of those. Now, we'll take a look at the weight here and see what we're looking at. So here we're looking at around the 2.35 gram mark. Now, that's quite a lot of difference when we look at where we started around the 1.8 gram at the 75 micron. So we should hopefully expect a big difference in the board between those two, or maybe it's not as big as we initially thought. But again, a couple of advantages of using these. I think the main one is, again, if you like an aggressive style dart and you find that your flights are getting chewed, a thicker flight might be something for you to consider. But as long as the other sort of elements of this flight suit you as well, then this is also potentially a good option for you. Okay, so I've put 3 different flights in my darts. So we've got the 75, the 150 and the 180. Now hopefully we should see a bit of a difference as they sit on the board now, and I'll give you my opinion as we're sort of throwing them. So let's take a look how they go. Now that kind of sums it up perfectly, really. I hope you can see it from that side. This one, you've got quite a high angle of the dart. This one is a little bit flatter, and then this one seems to be a little more flatter than the bottom. Again, quite a good example. Higher entry, still high, and then pretty flat. So as you can see here, that's kind of why sometimes changing your setup can change how your darts fly. Have a try with different thicknesses of flights and see how you get on. Again, as I said before, there's pros and cons to every flight. Try out what works for you and see what's best. Thanks for watching, and bye.